Yeah, thanks for the small, nice introduction, and good afternoon to all of you. What I'm going to do is continue on the trend Mr. Dumashia has said of keeping the warehouse man in mind and and make his life better. However, shift the focus to overall quality of warehousing, not necessarily limited to material handling, is what I'm going to do. So in that sense, I have titled my presentation as Emerging Trends in Warehousing in India. Now, what I'm going to talk about is out of my own experience of close to a decade of consulting in India in the domain called as warehousing. We represent a small group as part of Godrej with an expertise to bring about logistic excellence within the warehousing domain, be it the raw material side or the finished goods side or the work in process side. We have been successful so far in these 7 years to touch base with about 40 odd clients, helping them in about 60 odd projects. And with that experience only, I have made this presentation. Hope it is of use to you. Now, like any business, logistic primarily strives for customer satisfaction. So if you look at the evolution of customer satisfaction over the period, what you will need is companies that are striving for customer satisfaction begin with certain basic standards of delivering a service. Moving on to developing a product or a service that meets the customer's needs. Moving further to deliver that at low cost. Now, till this point of time, he remains as a single man. But the next step of customer satisfaction is moving to a level of partnership with the company, where you not only meet up with the client's current needs, but also look at what his future expectations could be. Okay, that's what we call as a latent need, something that is not explicitly told, what could likely come as a strategy expectations of the client, and then catering those services in that manner. Now, while this has been an universal evolution process as far as customer satisfaction is concerned, India has followed a slightly different trend. If you look at India, India has started talking about meeting certain customer expectations at a low cost to begin with. However, the primary standards were lacking. Fortunately, it is coming back now. The focus is coming back now. So, the kind of organized warehousing, use of technologies and systems are something that have been increasingly being talked about only now. Of course, talking about meeting the latent need is still a distant away as far as the Indian warehousing sector is concerned. Now, however, for the Indian logistic industry, there have been lots and lots of positive feelers coming from the market as well as from the government. So if I am to list down certain drivers that will ultimately help the growth of the logistic industry in India, the growth drivers would be the government policies which would bring about simplicity in taxation, which ultimately means implementation of GST leading to consolidation of warehouses. That's one. The other one is the investments in infrastructure in all segments like road, rail, ports, civil, and warehousing. In terms of the demand drivers, India remains still as an untapped market with over 50% of the logistic requirement emerging from the agriculture industry still being unutilized. In addition to that, the manufacturing industry which has been registering a very, very healthy growth rate is obviously an emerging opportunity for the logistics sector. Now, of course, the listing of the industry is purely on alphabetical order, no particular sequencing here. Now, with these developments, the demand on warehousing in India is emerging for bigger but fewer warehouses. I hope I am audible to the last. Yeah? Okay. And these warehouses are supposed to deliver efficiency. When we talk of efficiency, high quality of operations, optimal cost of operations, and superior delivery performance. Now, while being efficient, also be flexible, because India is a developing country, so things are very dynamic in Indian industry. So be flexible, capable of handling dynamic product portfolios, and also a scenario where you get to handle multiple clients in a single facility. Now, with this demands coming up, with the customer focus gaining momentum, What we are also noticing as a transition in Indian industry is a move from unorganized warehousing into organized warehousing, which involves continuous improvement in the way the warehousing is being managed with increased participation of the people who are directly involved with warehousing. So what I'm going to talk about is now where this continuous improvement is happening, how it is relevant. And when we look at warehousing as an area here, I have taken for this particular presentation 3 key performance parameters which any warehouse man would be concerned about. They are cubic space utilization, asset accuracy, delivery speed. Dwelling deep into this, I look at the various technology trends in these aspects to start with cubic space utilization. Now, an intelligent selection of equipment, like Mr. Dumasia was mentioning, can help you achieve better capacities in warehouse. Now, in Indian industry, the equipments have evolved to reach a level of an articulated forklift, which as against a conventional equipment requiring 4.2 meters, would only require about 2.2 meters to safely operate with. Even though Mr. Dumasia mentioned that it can operate in 6 feet of space, looking at the unskilled nature of the Indian operators, still a safety margin has to be built in. So even with the safety margin of about 2.2 meter, it's still a 50% reduction in terms of an aisle space that you would be operating with. Now, if you are to operate with this, I would like to demonstrate what exactly is the benefit that you are going to get. For this particular purpose, what I have done is I have done a simple sample calculation here. I have taken up a warehouse measuring about 50 meters by 80 meters of space, taken a conventional pallet of about 1 meter by 1.2 meter. So if I am going to have this, and if I am going to use different sets of equipments, and if I am going to have different heights of warehouses, what kind of a capacity expansion can I think about? As is very evident, what's happening is if you use the articulated forklift, you are getting about 41% of capacity expansion in the same space, provided the space is pillar intervention free. Okay, that's an assumption I have made. Quite obviously, so if there is a pillar intervention, then there could be a loss of another 5 to 10% here. But it is a significant benefit. Now, if you're talking about a 50,000 square foot of a warehouse, and even if you say 30% of the space is what, or 30% of excess capacity I'm going to create, the kind of an additional warehouse that you would need to cater to the same capacity will ultimately justify an investment into articulated forklift within the same year itself. So, an intelligent selection of an equipment which has become a reality in India can help you achieve better capacities in the same space. There are also systems that have brought about better life, better safety in operations while you adopt dense storage practices. We all know in India the dense storage practices are like ground stacking, going for a drive-in system, whereby always the operator safety was at question. Now, we have a technology here where the operator need not go inside a dense storage system, an equipment does that job, and still you achieve the same density of storage. It does have a little bit of a limitations where you need to have integration requirements of a main material handling equipment and also the small equipment that is part of the storage system which we call as shuttle being necessary. And since this is being an electrical equipment, it will require charging like any electrical material handling equipment. But more importantly, the way you store the material will require lots of pre-planning activity. So it brings in lots of intelligence into your put-away practices in order to get the maximum efficiency out of picking as well. Now, for those people who would still want to continue with ground-based storage, there are technology developments which help you stack material. Okay. Now, the beauty of this particular concept is that, of course, some might argue that it is something similar to a collapsible pallet. Okay. Now, a collapsible pallet, the strength that you achieve is significantly lower than this particular concept. Okay. And in terms of the material content, it is slightly lower than a caged pallet, a welded caged pallet. It takes you, it gives you the capability to stock about 1 ton of a material to a height up to 4 meters. So for those people who believe in ground storage, this gives them tremendous flexibility in utilizing the height. Now that's about cubic space utilization. Now when it comes to delivery speed, of course in India, this